Hello, Ale. All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Melanin Expressions. I am your host, AK, and I'm here with my father, affectionately known as Professor D. We are going to come to you with the Bill of Rights this evening. We talked to you about the governmental branches, the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch last time. And now we're going to talk about the Bill of Rights, the 10 amendments that make up this Bill of Rights. So I'm going to run them down real quick, and then we'll circle back and have a full-fledged conversation. But first, would you like to introduce yourself? I did it for you, but also you can say you can introduce your own self.
Good afternoon or good evening. And thank you, AK, for inviting me to this forum. I really appreciate it. My name is Doyle Lewis. My family calls me Professor D, and I take that with a badge of honor for sure, because the people that I love aggress me in such a manner. So I really do appreciate it. So I'm going to wear this, Professor D, with a great deal of pride. So thank you, AK.
All right. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so we're gonna hit it real quick, and so we can get in this thing and get on up out of it. All right, so we have the Bill of Rights, and I do have some notes, so I'm making sure I'm running it down. I don't miss nothing, and I'll go over there real quick. And like I said, we'll circle back. But okay, so we have these Bill of Rights were uh, uh, constructed to address concerns from anti-federalists who feared a too powerful government, federal government. Okay, so these are to protect the rights of the people. So we got the First Amendment. That is the freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly and petition. We have the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. And we have the Third Amendment. It's called quartering of soldiers. No forced housing of soldiers in private homes during times of peace. The Fourth Amendment is search and seizure protections. Protections against unreasonable searches and seizures. Warrants are required. Physical warrants are required based on probable cause. The Fifth Amendment, affectionately known as I plead the Fifth, and that is rights in criminal cases, right to due process, right just to remain silent. Okay, and then it has a little bit more to it. It says also protection against double jeopardy and self-incrimination. So you have a right to remain silent. All right. The Sixth Amendment is right to a fair trial. Those are civil trials. Like if you have an issue with your neighbor or something and you guys got to go to court, those are the civil trials. And you go to civil court. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, okay.
Civil,
Yeah.
it's civil. It's civil. Yeah.
Okay. But I said the Sixth Amendment.
That's the.
That's the
Oh no, that's quartering. Okay, the Sixth Amendment is a little bit.
Listen, we don't went over this several times, and I've done got ahead of myself. Okay, so let me back up and correct myself. See, I'm not even gonna worry about I messed up. It's okay. I'm human, but I messed up. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna correct myself. So anyway, like I said, the plead the fifth is what we call the Fifth Amendment, and that's what you have: the right to due process, protection against double jeopardy, self-incrimination, right to just compensation when property is taken for public use. And then we have the Sixth Amendment. That's the right to a fair trial. You have a right to a speedy public trial, okay? And then we have the Seventh Amendment, and that's your civil trials when you have maybe an issue or a dispute with your neighbor or something like that. And then y'all got to go to the civil courts and stuff. And then the Eighth Amendment, for like you have proper bails, fines, and punishments placed upon you when you have committed a crime. It can't be excessive, okay?
And
Excessive
no
punishment.
cruel and no cruel and unusual punishment.
Amen. And the Ninth Amendment, we have rights retained by the people. So this acknowledges that people have rights beyond those listed in the Constitution. So it's not all inclusive right here. Okay. And then we have the 10th and final amendment that we're discussing today that make up these Bill of Rights, and that's the state rights. Powers not specifically given to the federal government, belonging to the states or the people. All right. So,
awesome.
Excuse my little debacle, but that's okay. I recovered. And now we're gonna go ahead and go circle back, and so we can hit this conversation in a little more depth. Please take it away.
Oh, hey, thank you, Alicia. I mean, AK, and you have really, really gone over the breadth of the.
He froze up, y'all. That's all right. I don't know what happened, but he froze up. Well, he'll be right back.
I'm here.
All right.
Let's do a little bit of history in reference to how these Bill of Rights came into effect. You know, the Constitution, a number of states, not a number of states, but back then there was 13 states that was originally getting all these the Constitution and the Bill of Rights in place, and a number of states, two of them in particular, Massachusetts and Georgia, was in total disagreement of having a Bill of Rights to further enunciate on what the Constitution was doing. They were in total disagreement with that there. And of course, James Madison, who was the framer of the Bill of Rights, also disagreed with having to have an additional set of rights enunciated in the Constitution. But at some point in that time, he relented and said, okay, we'll do that there. Let's give you a little bit of history of how all these things came into effect. Early on, when we constructed the Constitution, they used these three elements. They used the Magna Carta, and we talked about the Magna Carta was a document that was put into place in 1215 that all of society that was really civilized society used as a frame or as a reference point of how they conducted civilized business. And then because we were part of the English government, the English system, we was a colony. The United States was a colony. We also used the English Bill of Rights, which was constructed in 1689. And then the last thing that we used to come up with our Constitution was the Virginia Declaration of Rights, which was constructed in 1776, as we was having the convention in Philadelphia to put our Constitution in place. So all of those three documents were the formation of the founding formations of our Constitution. And so with that, James Madison drafted 19 different amendments, 19 amendments, and he submitted them to the Congress, which is comprised of the Senate and the House of Representatives. And of those 19 that James Madison submitted, 12 was approved by the Congress. And of those 12, 10 was ratified and became what is known as the Bill of Rights. So that's the history of the Bill of Rights. That's how they got into place. And they was ratified on December the 15th, 1789. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? I mean, a long time ago. And, I mean, it's just amazing how that worked out. And those first amendments protected, like I said, freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and the right to assemble and to petition the government. And that you said that we were going to circle back to some things. So, I mean, that gives you a little bit of overview of where we at. And I just want to go from where you at and what you have, and I'll try and help and build upon what you already have put out there.
Good. So yeah, I kind of want to circle back because like we have talks and stuff, but the political climate right now is very tumultuous, it's tense, it's a lot of things going on. And that's what made me even want to start having these conversations, because I find myself hearing things and I'm like, I don't know about that, I don't remember that. And then, that don't sound right. So I find myself researching and trying to study and trying to like get it all. And I was like, you know what? I know there got to be other people that are having these same thoughts or doing these same things that I'm doing. So let's have a conversation. And I said, well, my daddy loves this stuff. And I said, he's the smartest man I know. And I said, well, let me ask my daddy and see if he would go ahead and have these conversations. And he was on board. So I appreciate you. So reference the First Amendment, the freedom of speech and stuff. With the way things are today, how is this First Amendment, the freedom of speech, the freedom of petition, how is that useful in today's time for us?
So one wonderful question, and so appropriate for today's time, is that when it says that each individual, each person has the right, and I may go further to say has the obligation to petition and to seek absolute resolution on what is going on. Why is this going on? And so when we say petition, that means that if someone is doing something that you believe is unfair or not, it doesn't mean that it is, but it's that you think it is, then you have the right to petition your legislatures, we talking about state, federal, and you have a right to petition that. And in this day and age, if you are not doing that, then you are, I believe, and these are the words that I come up with, I believe you are complicit in allowing things to happen. If you are not being a part of what this wonderful document has allowed us to do, if you are not taking your rightful place in ensuring that your rights are being represented, you are complicit.
Right.
You have the right to hold your elected officials accountable for what's going on. Okay. And they have to get back with you and let you know what's going on. And there's formal ways for that to happen. So I implore and I ask each individual out there to engage and to become knowledgeable of these Bill of Rights, because they will help you. The First Amendment identifies so many things that are part of our everyday life, that if you don't take advantage of petitioning and getting involved and listening and being a vocal opponent of things that are not right, you are complicit.
Correct. And so if you have problems with what things that are going on right now, call your senators, call your congressmen or women, reach out and express your concern, express yourself, give out the concerns, ideas that you have within yourself, give them out and share them and let them know. Do not stay quiet. And also, the freedom of speech, the First Amendment is not the arbiter of truth. I have heard that mentioned in different congressmen groups and meetings, and I'm like, no, it's not the arbiter of truth. It allows you to have the freedom of speech. Now, you could say something that might not be true. You could say, my name is not Alicia, but it is. And it might not, but that's your freedom of speech.
You can do it. You can say it.
You're acting your freedom of speech, but that's not right. So what I'm saying is, you can say something. Everybody has the right to say something, but it might not be true. You need to fact check, seek the truth, and don't just listen. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors happening these days. And it's not so to hide what's really going on, or to cover, or to give a false illusion of what's really happening. So you must know your rights, you must know what's going on, and you must pay attention and speak if you see something that you do not like, or if you hear something that you do not like.
AK, you are on point. You are so right on with that there, because we we have so many ways to check the factual truth of a statement that it is pathetic. And if we don't do that, we do ourselves a disservice. So
Yes,
you are absolutely on point
correct.
with that there. And I appreciate hearing you saying that. And I'm so pleased to hear it. I am. So
Correct.
yes, our Bill of Rights are really a Bill of Rights.
Right. And then to scooch on down to that Fourth Amendment, like I had told you, I had you're just kind of learning a situation that happened to me about 16 years ago, um, where I was kind of harassed by the police a little bit, coming home and going into my door. Had not been speeding. I was not parked illegally. My tags are not, they were not illegal. Nothing, no reason whatsoever should the police be asking me or trying to approach me for anything. They were asking me at my front. I got to my door and I went on in, but I stayed inside my door, but they were asking for my ID and what I was doing, and who am I, and what am my ID. And me at the time, they're being a little frustrated and not knowledgeable, or even recalling or remembering or thinking about my rights. I gave them my ID because I didn't have nothing to hide. I wasn't worried about them finding anything because I hadn't done anything. Um, but I could have stood my ground and 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 stand firm in my Fourth Amendment rights. I didn't have
Yes.
to give them anything because they had no probable cause. They had no reason to be asking me anything because I hadn't done nothing. That's just a way for them um to possibly maybe see if you got something. And then they will have probable cause because maybe you do have something. Maybe you have something outstanding. Then they will have you. So you're giving them the probable cause if you go ahead and what do you, I'm the word is
Acquiesce to their
yeah, just
plan. What happened? You said it really clearly there. Uh, reasonable, articulate suspicion. If I mean, they have. It has to be reasonable. It has to be articulated that they believe that you have done something for you to have to identify. If you haven't, and they have no reason to check your identity. We live in, I live in Oklahoma, you live in Missouri. They have to have a reasonable, articulate suspicion for you to have to identify. And the other thing that people need to realize is that you have the right to ensure that they have their body cam on, and you have the right to get their name and their badge number.
when they're
And
pulling you over. Yes, I mean
yes,
at all times, especially when they're pulling you over, because they might not just walk up on you all the time. But if you get pulled over,
yeah, and see, and you said it right as well. And I like the fact that you know this stuff now. Probable cause. Probable cause. That that gives they have to have probable cause in order to ask you for anything. If there's no probable cause, if you've done nothing, there's no reason for them to do anything. That's that has got to be itched in everybody's brain. If I've done nothing, I don't have to say nothing.
right?
Keep your mouth closed.
Correct, correct.
Keep your mouth closed. I mean, the Fourth Amendment is wonderful. It helps us. And then we go right out of the Fourth Amendment into the Fifth,
Right.
which I
Right.
know that
But I want to back up because you have a little thing that you like to share. You tell the young people if they get pulled over. You say you let them know to do these things.
one of the things that I tell young people is that make sure that when you are pulled over, that you do not give out any information that you don't have to. Make sure that you ask the individuals that are stopping you, why? Why am I being stopped? That's the why.
If they
If
haven't voluntarily said it.
right, and if they can't give you a rationale or a reason, then you tell them, I want a supervisor here. You have that right. You have the right to have a supervisor there because they stopping you and they don't have any reason to do it. So make sure you assert your. That's one of your rights to have a supervisor there. Make sure that you get their name, you get their badge number. Make sure that they know that I'm a citizen and I have nothing to say. Absolutely, absolutely nothing to say. Zip it up. I said, I'm not. The thing that people do is that they open their mouth and they get themselves in trouble just by what they said, and it may not be anything getting credit, but you open mouth and what I call insert foot.
Right.
So keep your mouth closed. Just do it.
So basically, if you get pulled over, and this is not just for young people, but young people coming up and they don't always know the things. But if any of us get pulled over, make sure you know why you're being pulled over. Whether if the officer has already told you or you ask them. And if they can't give you a reason, you have a right to stay silent and you don't have to produce anything. And you also have the right for them to make sure, ask them that their body cam is on. You can ask who they are, the badge number. And then if things are not going properly, you can also request, and even if you feel something that if they pulled you over unlawfully, then you can also ask for their supervisor.
Absolutely. And the other thing is this here, you have to remember that some officers will go past what they are legally authorized to do. And you may be pulled out of your car.
You may.
Don't resist. Don't put up a fuss. Don't say anything. Don't give them a reason to give you a charge. They pull you out. You say, look here, I am getting out, and you have told me that you're going to put me on the rest. I'm getting out under duress. I do not agree with this here, but I'm getting out, and you're telling me that I have to do it, and that I'm going to be arrested if I don't do it or whatever it is. I'm going to follow these instructions, even though I don't agree with them. That's the one thing I want people to know. You follow the instructions, but you let them know that you're in total disagreement, and make sure that you say it directly into their body cam. That I am in total disagreement.
They're encroaching upon your rights. They are not supposed to be doing that.
They are just make sure that it's identified that I'm not disagreeing. I'm not being disruptive. I'm not being combative. I'm not doing any of those things there. I just don't agree with what you're doing and how you're doing it. And so that you protect your legal rights by not giving them additional information or material to charge you for something that you didn't do.
Correct. And then that's rolling on into the Fifth Amendment, where a lot of people say, I plead the Fifth. That's where this comes from, the Fifth Amendment. You have a right to remain silent. If you are being detained, you have a right to remain silent. And in the Miranda rights that the police cite to you, and they must cite those to you. If they detain you, it's a must. If you're being detained, it's a must. So
just think about this. Just think about this in reference to the Miranda rights. Say I'm a Hispanic individual. I just want to use this as an example because I think sometimes this is missed. Say I'm a Hispanic individual, and I do, and we have a lot of Hispanic individuals in the United States that don't understand English. Say I'm a Hispanic individual, and you read me my Miranda rights in English, and I can show through history that I have no knowledge of English, and I'm here in the United States. I can show that I don't have any. Your Miranda rights was not read because they didn't do it to you in Spanish.
Ooh,
Yeah, I mean, so those are some things that you need to know. And once those Miranda rights are read to you, you have the right to say, "I plead the fifth."
You have a right.
Once you do that, there, and this goes back. I was telling people, this goes back to those cop shows and those police shows where we have the detective pull people into these rooms and they sit down and they play the good cop and the bad cop. And the good cop will come and say, "Hey, hey, if you do this here and you do this here, we're gonna make sure that you don't get charged all this stuff here." People, once you say, "I plead the fifth," there should be no more communication. And I'm not talking about on your part. On your part, once you tell them that you don't have to say anything. If they continue to talk, if they continue to ask you questions, if they have just violated the Fifth Amendment. And you know what has happened, and it's happening. I must be transparent here. Let me be transparent. When in my younger days, when I was in the military, I got locked up for some stuff. I got locked up for stuff. I beat the case. I think I may have told you this a long time. I beat the case because of what's called an illegal search and seizure. An illegal search and seizure. Because I was not read my Miranda rights before I was taken in custody, and they went and searched my car. Everything that they did prior to my Miranda rights was thrown out of court. I was guilty as I could be. Just to tell you the truth, I was guilty as I could be. But because there was illegal procedures, the entire thing got thrown out. It was only because I had a great attorney that based on just talking to me, because I didn't know any of this would have happened. I didn't know that this had done. But as he talked to me and he asked me, how was I treated? When did they give me this here? When did this here happen? After he went through all that there and he got with the district attorney, he went through all the exact things that, and we didn't have cameras back then, but right. they had to put it in chronological order, and they found out that, hell, wait a minute, this didn't happen and this didn't happen. So everything that was seized
That's right.
was not admissible in court. So because you have good representation, they check back on what's going on, and you keep because one thing that I've known all my life, I've known this since I was a young man, is that if you don't say nothing, they can't prove it unless they have a witness. Exactly. And so I've always known that there. So you're not gonna get I say this with a lot of fun. You're not gonna get Don Lewis to tell on himself. I'm not gonna say it. So if you assert your Fifth Amendment right, and I didn't assert it at that particular time, but what I'm saying, my attorney asserted everything for me, and because they violated what they should have known, they didn't do what they needed to do. They didn't read me my Miranda rights. I was able to get all of that stuff dismissed. And so I'm telling people, you sometimes are your worst enemy by opening your mouth.
And another thing that I don't want to forget, because I have forgot it to mention in the past, and underage. If you're underage, they should not be.
Absolutely. When you're underage, you have a legal right to have a guardian or someone who represents you from a family standpoint before you can speak on any issues in reference to legal things going on. And they do this all the time, and they have parents and guardians who don't understand the law end up forfeiting their kids' rights by opening their mouth and say, "Okay, yeah, it's good for you to do that." Don't do that.
Don't you do it.
Don't do that. Keep your mouth closed. If you're wrong, opening your mouth and telling, "Oh man, I'm sorry," that's not going to help you, because I guarantee you that the law is, it's hard to prove that somebody did something unless you have absolute A1 witnesses. And 9 times out of 10, the way people get convicted, and this is so true, the way people get convicted is that they say, just like you said, I wasn't so and so. Well, I never went over there. I never. And the police officers sometimes, the detectives, I mean, they sometimes know that you wasn't over there, or they know that you was there, and you said that you wasn't, and then they can prove that you was. That helps them to build their case. So keep your
Yep.
mouth closed.
Be
Keep
quiet.
your keep your mouth closed.
All right.
That would be my sentiment in all issues. Keep your mouth
Hush your
closed. Don't do it. And when we talk about warrants,
Right.
if the police officer have a warrant, that warrant has got to be specific. It has to
And it needs to be a physical warrant.
It has to be a physical one, and it has to be
So
specific. It has to be. It has to name who, when, and what. Who, when, and what.
Exactly.
And so you can't have something. You're looking for something that weighs 50 pounds and is 5 feet long. So that you can't look in a box that's 2 feet wide and 1 foot deep, because
Right.
it's not going to hold it.
It's not there.
So they can't go over the scope of what that warrant says. And so that's what people got to be aware of.
That's right.
And when you become aware of those type of things, it's a lot easier to keep the law enforcement people in check. I don't like people.
So when somebody is coming, if an officer come knocking at your door telling them let them in, they want to check your house, you don't have to let them in if they don't have a warrant. And it must be a clear state of warrant of what they are searching for.
It has to have the judge's name on it. It has to have a date on it, and it has to have a perimeter. It has to have a perimeter of what they can and they can't look at. Exactly. And so that has to be identified on the warrants. And judges who sign warrants know this. They know this. Now, detectives that initiate warrants, they also know it, but they will, from time to time, try to overplay their execution of those particular warrants. They will try to overplay it. So people have got to be vigilant. Be vigilant.
Exactly. So thank you so much for all the the breakdowns and the interaction and discussion about that. And I don't know if you told me about that one. That was good though.
I'm sorry. I try to always keep you guys apprised of it,
but I might have forgot. Yeah. But I want to go, as the time is running down, I want to just run back over there, since I did fumble a little bit in the beginning. I just want to run over the 10 amendments real quick, and I'm just going to just be very brief so we can close out. All right. The 10 amendments. The first amendment is freedom of speech, press, religion, and assembly. The second amendment, right to bear arms. The third amendment, quartering of soldiers. The Fourth Amendment is the search and seizure protections. The Fifth Amendment is rights in criminal cases or pleading the fifth, the right to remain silent. The Sixth Amendment is right to a fair trial, right to a fair and speedy public trial. The Seventh Amendment is civil trial rights. And then the Eighth Amendment is bails, fines, and punishments. They cannot be excessive. They must fit the crime. And then the Ninth Amendment, rights retained by the people. The people have rights beyond those listed within the Constitution. And then the 10th Amendment, state rights. That is powers not specifically given to the federal government, belonging to the states or the people.
Awesome.
So I want to thank you once again for coming on here, having this discussion with me, and just hopefully we can just help at least one person will take something away from here. And I look forward to having another opportunity to have another discussion about something again. I don't know what. Maybe we might just have some talks about the good old days, because it sounds interesting.
Let me say one thing before we get off here. In reference to amendment, the Second Amendment.
Oh, yes.
We have very little or no discussion or issues about the Second Amendment. That's the amendment in reference to quartering.
That's the third.
Is that the third?
The third amendment, the quartering of
No,
soldiers.
you're right. The third amendment. So that is the one amendment that we haven't had much issue with over time.
No, Lord, that we don't need. We had times of peace.
And we won't have any problems with that. That's one that we won't have any problems with. So I'm pleased that we have at least one amendment that we don't have. We don't have to deal with it as much, and that's that third amendment. You're absolutely right. So
yeah, that's good.
I wanted to at least say that the third amendment is not something that we have to deal with.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you have experienced another episode of Melanin Expression. I am your host, AK, and my co-host is Mr. Professor D, and we are out. Bye.
Peace.